Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me this evening. I'm Janet Unterschlag and I'm here to answer your questions for English. And I want to thank Liberty for giving me this opportunity and for sponsoring our program. So thank you to Liberty for making everything possible. We're very grateful indeed. So the first thing I've got is on our revision list is the letter to the editor. This is also called the letter to the press. So it's a really good idea for you to revise your letters. You know that there are formal letters and informal letters. What decides whether it's formal or informal? That's your gaps. So your genre, which is the letter, and then what kind of letter. So specifically here, we're talking about a letter to the editor. Your audience, this is the person who is going to receive your letter. Who is that? So many learners think that the letter to the editor is about some kind of business activity. So you have a problem with the newspaper and you're writing to the editor to complain about something or to ask him to do something or to make sure that the online thing is working. And talking about online, please won't you download the Tenfold Education app and make sure that you ask your questions, use the Twitter function so that I can answer your questions like these ones. Right, so no, it's not going to the editor. It's going to be published in a newspaper or magazine, and there will be a special letters page. So there will be letters written by various members of the public that are published in this newspaper or in this magazine. What I'm indicating at the bottom there is the person's name, and they usually say something like Chatsworth, so that they know, which area of the country you come from. So your audience, these are the readers of that particular newspaper or magazine. So you should have something in common with those readers. If it is a fashion magazine, you will all be interested in fashion and know a lot about it. If it is a car magazine, you will know a lot about cars. So your readers are knowledgeable. They have knowledge on whatever the topic is. If it's a general newspaper, they will have knowledge on current events. Current means that they are happening now. So you don't tell them there has been a lockdown in place and we are now on level 2. They know that. They're knowledgeable. They read as much as you do. They're interested in things the way you're interested in things. So what you've got to do is think about an intelligent audience, and your purpose is to entertain that audience or to inspire that audience or to rally that audience. Rally is when you gather people together. So that, let us say you're writing about load shedding. You want to rally that audience behind you and get support for your ideas. But remember, they're knowledgeable. Don't tell them, we have load shedding again. They know that. So what are you trying to communicate? What are you sharing with them? So you are sharing some of your knowledge so that you can increase their knowledge. Your style. Now, the letter to the editor shouldn't be formal and cold and polite the way that you might write a letter of complaint. But it mustn't be slangy either, because that's, well, I suppose it could be appropriate if your audience is a slangy age group, but it's unlikely to be in an exam. So it's got to be a mixture of well-written and lively. So you need excellent vocabulary, but you need a lively, energetic, zippy kind of style. So is it quite tricky? Yes. So you need to practice. In the same way that you've just been asked, please won't you practice for science, please won't you practice for English. Is the letter to the editor hard? Yes. Yes, it is actually. It's not an easy kind of marks for jam question. It requires insight and knowledge and some good ideas. So it's not easy. You need to practice. So I've just tried to sum up the purpose there. We want a viewpoint or opinion. Remember, you want to be published and you want to reach those readers. So you don't want the letters editor to throw your letter out, and you don't want readers to start reading and then say, oh no, I'm not going to read this rubbish. This is terribly important. I've said it already. Please won't you make a careful note? You're not writing to the editor of the newspaper. We call it a letter to the editor, but that's because this is the letters editor and he chooses what he publishes, but it's not actually to him. Okay, how are we doing with those words? Concise. This means brief. I didn't want that color. I wanted a nice blue. That's better. Brief, to the point. If your letter is too long, they are allowed to cut it and they're allowed not to publish it. Courteous doesn't mean you can't complain, but don't be insulting. All right, remember, so I want a nice bright red. So insulting is a no-no. Even if you are complaining or you are moaning about something, you must not be insulting and rude. Are the other words okay? Well informed, that you know what you're talking about. Right. Now remember that any piece of writing should have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. I believe Aristotle said this a few hundred years before the birth of Jesus Christ, and nothing much has changed. So this is really for anything, like diary entries. If you're asked for 2 diary entries, you need some kind of structure, even if it's just 2 paragraphs. Please, things like leaving the blank line, starting against the margin. You know, they're such basic things. Pay attention to format. You need to practice. You need to revise. You can't go into the matric exam and decide, I'm going to write a letter, and then not know how to set it out on the page. So this is what it would look like. What do I say to the grade 5s? Okay. So with the grade 5s, you start with yourself, all right? The grade 5 said, we don't know where to begin. Where do we begin our address? You always start with yourself. Now, we're not allowed to hug other people, so you hug yourself, okay? So you begin with your street. Then you come out slightly to your suburb. And then you come out slightly to the code. All right, so what did we develop in our school? Street, suburb, code, wait. Don't forget the date. Okay, can we try this? Street, suburb, code, wait. Don't forget the date. And if you have to sit in your matric exam doing this, well then you need to do that. Because students get it wrong. Seriously, they put everything in the wrong order. Start with yourself. My street, my suburb, my suburb's code. Street, suburb, code, wait. Don't forget the date. And you can do that from grade 5 to grade 12 and get it right. And I prepared this a little while ago, so we're still on the 4th of August. So are we okay with this? Big tick. Right. Now, you're writing to a person. You always write to a person. please. Then you write to the company. Then you have a P.O. box address. Some students still like a street address. Okay, you can have a street address, but very few businesses have mail delivered to a street address. So a P.O. box address. Should it be an email? We should go over the email as well. If you want me to go over the email, you need to ask. Right. So P.O. box, then the suburb, then the code. And you have to learn that. You have to get it right. So take a good look and promise me you're going to practice. Then why don't we say dear sir or dear madam? I actually have no idea. It's just a custom. With letters to the press, we just begin sir or madam. I need to look it up. Then you have a subject line. Please keep this short. I usually say not more than 5 words. Keep it short, to the point. You're writing to the press. You need to indicate what you're talking about. So maybe your topic is load shedding in Cape Town or whatever it is. Nice and short and to the point. You sign it off yours faithfully, and then you will give your signature. You will sign it like that. Why yours faithfully? English has ways of showing distance, showing how close you are to the person who is receiving your letter. So we're talking here about the author, the writer of the letter, and the recipient. That's not going to show up, is it? Recipient. That's the person who receives it. The most polite, formal word we have when you and the recipient are very, very far apart. So this is a stranger. And this is for a letter. The most formal one we have is yours faithfully. No apostrophe and a little f to a total stranger. So what's important is when you are looking at your gaps, you need to say, what is my relationship with that person? So if you are writing an informal letter to a parent, I really would expect you to write, love, Janet. Obviously against the margin. I have had students write, yours faithfully, to their parents, and then Janet Unterschlag. What are you saying? You are saying my parents and I are utter strangers. And if you write like that, you're being incredibly rude. That's the point. You're saying to your mother and your father, I don't know you. You don't know me. I'm a stranger. I'm even going to tell you what my surname is, even if my surname is the same surname as yours. So do you understand? You're sending a message when you write yours faithfully and you write Janet Unterschlag. You are sending a message. I don't know you. That's fine. You don't know the editor. If you're writing a letter, a business letter, you don't know that person. And I'm talking letters rather than emails. You don't know that person. Yours faithfully. Now, what if you've met the person, but you don't know them very well, but you want to show that they're not quite as far apart as you and the yours faithfully who like that. This is a person you know, but not well. What does English give you? So again, I'm against my margin. Yours sincerely. Now, would I then write I would probably not sign it, but I would probably write name and surname, but not a signature. Again, you need to feel it. Do you hear how I'm feeling it? I'm feeling my way here. How well do I know this person? Do I know this person quite well, but I still want to show respect, in which case I might just go, yours sincerely, Janet. Do you understand? You need to feel this relationship. How close am I to this person? How far am I away? Right, now what about yours truly? Don't use it. I've never used yours truly in my life. I feel that that's old-fashioned and I don't want yours truly. Get rid of it. Right, now what happens if you know the person pretty well, but it's like a colleague? It's a business professional relationship, but you know the person. Now we get closer to what you do when you've got an email. So emails are more relaxed. So a business email, I'm going to come back to the letter in a moment. The business email, you can go with kind regards. I think that's a little bit more formal than best regards, but you can use either of those. And if this is a business email, but you know the person pretty well, you can just do regards, okay? So this is the end of an email. What about a letter? This is somebody that, a colleague. You can now use the kind regards, the best regards, or the regards. What about an informal letter? Again, we're talking letters, right? An informal letter to a friend. Now, girls don't have a problem at all. In fact, controlling the girls is the problem. You write, love, Janet. No problem. With girls, you want to get them to stop writing love and kisses and the whole gatuti over here. No, don't want that. Boys, you freak out at the word love. In fact, I have boys who freak out at the word dear. Dear is just a convention. We write, dear John, dear Janet, dear Mr. So-and-so, dear sir. In English, we use dear. It doesn't mean, I love you, I love you, I love you. Okay, so please. But boys can't bear this. So to a friend, you can write regards, Peter. Okay, that's absolutely unemotional in the sense of it's not saying I love you, I love you, I love you. It's just being friendly. Okay, so that's the letter. So would you use regards for your letter to the editor? Absolutely not. It is yours faithfully. Business letter. What if you send it as an email? Then you'd probably put kind regards. Me, I'm old-fashioned. I kind of, I've never met this person. I still use yours faithfully, even in an email. If I'm writing to parents, I tend to say yours sincerely or just sincerely on its own. Because I feel, yes, I've met these parents, well, not this year, but no, normally. You know, the old normal? Can you still remember the old normal? So I meet the parents at parents' evenings, and then I email them, and then maybe there's a few phone calls. So I feel they're not strangers, but they're not friends either. So I want to get somewhere between the coldly polite, yours faithfully, and yours sincerely, which is, don't know. So then yours sincerely or sincerely. I'm trying to get that sense of I know you, but I'm not. I'm friendly, but I'm not friendly. Do you see what I mean? But again, do you see how I'm feeling it? I'm saying, what would be appropriate? So can I just emphasize that? In terms of everything in language, when you come to the style, I've said this before, there's no such thing as good English and bad English. There is what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. A few weeks ago, a student asked about swearing, and I spoke about this at some length. Swearing is appropriate in certain situations. It's really not appropriate in an exam or in a classroom situation. So that's the same thing with how do I end this letter? How do I end this email? You need to feel that relationship. Okay.